Hello, BookTube, and happy Thanksgiving. Earlier today, I saw a video on MJ's channel, Reading This Life, in which she merely gives thanks for a handful of booktubers that she really likes. She didn't mention me because she hates me, because I smell, because I am an outcast. On BookTube, I am a leper. I am a leper who's outcast because he smells bad. I am a smelper. But she mentioned a whole bunch of great booktubers. I'll leave a link to her video down below, and the only thing that was missing from that video was the bootless aggression of weaponizing it into a tag. So I am doing that today for Thanksgiving. I'm creating the BookTube Thanksgiving Tag. Now we're going to use MJ's video as a kind of template and derive from it ironclad rules that you must follow. And if you don't, you are totally canceled. And there are 3 ironclad rules. You must choose 10 booktubers. She lists 10 people. Rule number 2 is that you must echo one choice from the previous video, the video that you got this inspiration from. You have to sort of pay it forward. There has to be a chain of custody here. So you have to echo an appreciation. So if you're watching this video done by a booktuber and all they mention are a pack of losers, you have to suck it up and echo the recommendation of one of those losers. And then rule number 3 is, of course, you must exclude Steve. Because everybody hates Steve because he smells. Or because he likes to refer to himself in the third person. So, now that those are set, let's just move on. Now, I have an echo for one of MJ's picks. But I also want to echo a strategy of hers, an approach that she took in her video, her entirely more kind-hearted video, because she opens it by recommending Jason Harrigan. Even though Jason Harrigan is largely peripheral to BookTube now. He hasn't made a video in a while. It doesn't seem to be foremost in his mind. This is an organic process. It happens. People will be all fired up for BookTube. They'll make a bunch of videos, then they will disappear, and that'll be that. Or life overtakes their priorities, and suddenly, although they're not in their own mind disappeared, they just don't have the bandwidth or the priorities to make BookTube videos. It happens. And I wanted to start off my list with 3 of those. With 3 of those people, naturally. If MJ mentions Jason Harrigan, I of course want to mention Mark Richardson, whose videos are fantastic, and who has a very active, busy life aside from BookTube. So the videos have been fewer in number as that life makes more demands on him. I don't think any one of the people that I'm mentioning is actually closing a door on BookTube. I think it's just that sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes not gets in the way, but takes priority over other things. If I had a life, it might do that. So I want to mention Mark Richardson to start with. I'll leave a link to anybody that I can here. Another one would be Hannah at Hannah's Books. Her videos have slowed to a trickle because events in her life have overshadowed BookTube. I can wish that weren't true. I bet she wishes that weren't true. And it's not like there's a goodbye, never again attitude on any part here. I'm just mentioning her because she, like Mark, does not make as many videos as I would like. And then the third absentee that I want to mention here, I don't have a link for because he privated his channel. And that might, on the surface, look like a much more obvious case of I'm done with BookTube. But I don't think so. I don't think it is at all. It's just if you have a body of videos, they are a large footprint sort of wagging behind you in the wind, and you don't know what anyone might do with that footprint, especially if you are young and in the job market. Most employers now look at someone's social media footprint. But since most employers do that only because most other employers do that, and they are mindless copycats, they don't know how to look at a social media footprint, so if they see one, a lot of them will just associate anything they can see as negative. I don't know, in any case, what any of the motivations are, but if I'm going to mention 2 people who have sort of backed away from BookTube, who I miss, I should at least mention a booktuber who's backed away from BookTube that, well, I'm not sure miss would be the right word. Of course, I'm referring to David Murphy, who's privated his channel, and he was economics wonk, and his videos were incredible They were absolutely incredible, but they had a bit of eat your Wheaties to them. So I fervently hope that he returns to BookTube so that I can make fun of him on camera instead of just off camera. So those are the absentees. And then I want to move on to the old guard. Now, I've been watching BookTube for a long time. I was watching it for a long time before I made a video, before Chris and Giselle Rhodes convinced me that I could make a video. So I had a lot of favorites, even before I turned on a camera. And those favorites have undergone attrition, just like the first group that I mentioned. But some have stayed constant. Some have been absolutely there all along, and I couldn't imagine BookTube without them because every video they make is interesting. I wanted to mention 3 of those. There's Katie at Books and Things, the foremost advocate of Victorian literature since George Bernard Shaw. She is absolutely incredible to watch, and she has been all along. Of course, there's Britta Bohler, whose name I have been mispronouncing now for, what, 7 years? Who's been very patient and long-suffering with rants on Voxer, and whose videos are incredible for a long list of reasons that I could get into. It's not just the breadth of books and the insight into them. There are a whole bunch of other things that really refresh me about Britta's channel. Every time I look at Twitter, which is one time too often, and think that the normal, non-performative, non-psychotic, non-vengeful, non-idiotic versions of the feminism that I embraced 50 years ago are gone. Every time I think that feminism is gone, I watch Britta's channel with her sometimes not so gentle reminders. The reminders that she gives on social media are far less gentle to all and sundry that women exist, that they ought to have equal treatment, that they are often more talented than men, especially in the field of letters. But mainly, it's the fun self-deprecation that I on Britta's channel. I think it's one we couldn't do without it. And of course, if we're talking about the old guard, then we want to go to the OGBG of old guard, and that is Olive, a book Olive, whose channel I could not do without. Most of the channels that I'm talking about have leapt in popularity, but a couple of them have not, in a way that illustrates what I think is the illusory nature of popularity on this area of YouTube. But you all know Olive's videos. She is our queen. I could not do without them. It'd be nice if I got a visity poo. That hasn't happened in a while, but I did mention that I smell. but we'll leave the old guard and we'll go to My Echo. So the MJ listed a whole bunch of great channels. I want to echo just one of them, talk about exploding in popularity. I want to mention CriminOlly. I'll leave a link to all of these channels down below. CriminOlly, of course, the mastermind behind Garb August, where we all read garbage and enjoyed it. And I love his channel for that. I love that I never know what his interest is going to lead him to next. But the foremost thing that I love his channel for is not something he has ever put forward. It's not something he's ever planned on or really trumpeted. It's in the background of his channel, but I notice it because it is a drink of cool water to me in a desert, sometimes what feels like a desert, which is his attitude towards what he reads, which is quite a bit of what he reads is garbage. Quite a bit of what he reads is lowbrow exploitive trash. And he knows that. He just likes it. And there's no defensiveness, but there's also no aggression. It's exactly the way we should all think about our reading. It's exactly the way we should all think about our reading. Assess it critically if you want. I have never once, in all the videos, I've watched all of Ollie's videos, and I've never once caught him overestimating a book because he likes it, which is the only sin of reading. What kind of book you read is not a sin. It cannot be. It's only if you abandon your critical faculties and say, because I like this thing, it must be critically good. Which not only isn't true and is a kind of bullying, but also cheapens the really good things that you also like. You're hurting yourself when you do that. Never even crosses Ollie's mind to do that. He knows perfectly well what he likes and what he doesn't like. He feels no more compulsion to overpraise the trash that he talks about on his channel than he feels to overpraise the canonical stuff that he encounters and he's told that he's supposed to like. It all goes into the hopper. I love it. Absolutely love it. Then I want to talk about a batch of young booktubers. We have booktubers all across the spectrum here. We have sexy 28-year-old influencers, but we also have older, more seasoned readers, and we have younger readers, which is a real unexpected benefit. We have people who are, by no condescension at all, no condescension intended here at all, but by any reckoning, they are at the beginning of their lifetime reading journey. Whereas we have people who are at the end, or in Britta's case, the bitter end of their lifetime reading journey. Barely an afternoon left. In addition to that, we have young people. And I want to list a few of those. Are the two young people on an Erudite Adventure. They post their videos regularly, so you can actually set your watch by it. That's kind of a weird thing for me, of course. I don't have a schedule for my uploads, and the idea of making 2 videos a week, I don't know. I don't know how I would do that. but it's always interesting to hear because their reading is across the board. They are willing to encounter the 10th book in a fantasy series the same as they are The Man in the Iron Mask or The Prisoner of Zenda. Also, Micah Cummins, of course, who is a very young booktuber on BookTube. He's perfectly willing to admit that he is at the beginning of his reading journey. His channel had a jump in popularity. That was wonderful, although I'm going to point out a few times in this video that I don't see subscriber numbers as a real yardstick of popularity, at least not among the people that you know. I think if you snag the BookTube algorithm, with a list or a thumbnail or something like that, then you can shoot up in popularity by people who don't comment on any of our videos. We don't know them. And there's an interest there as well. That's a fun thing. And if you monetize your channel, of course, that kind of extra traffic will give you a bigger paycheck when the time comes for buying more books or whatever it is you do with your monetization. I'm not saying there's no positives in that. There's nothing to smile at when you see your subscriber count going up. But I think you know what I mean. There are 2 yardsticks of how successful a channel is, and one of them has nothing to do with subscriber number at all. And so the third young person I want to mention is someone I just found. He's hilarious. Talk about self-deprecation. He's one of those enthusiastic readers who will often, when he's on camera and talking about books, he will often talk faster than he's actually composing his thoughts, and then he stumbles. His name is Frank Thornton. He's a big fan of Terry Pratchett, but hasn't read all of Terry Pratchett, hasn't read all of anything. That's the thing. That's the wonderful thing about these 3 young channels, is that they are new to reading. And that is amazing to me, that they are sharing the beginning of that journey with all the rest of us. It's like a lot of people on BookTube. BookTube did not exist when I was at the beginning of my reading journey. So it's amazing to see. I wonder what it will feel like to them if they reach the age of 50, if the world is still here when they reach the age of 50. So, an Erudite Adventure, Micah Cummins, and Frank Thornton. I will leave links to their channels down below. But in addition to the young people, we also have experts, older, seasoned readers. And since it's New Worlds November, which is all about science fiction, I thought I would mention 3 SFF experts, 3 science fiction fantasy experts that we're lucky to have amongst us. We're lucky to have them making videos. One, of course, is Shawn D. Standfast. He of the Stentorian tones. So we're lucky to have Shawn with us in a number of different ways. He had a pretty rough patch since 2020 and survived a couple of things that would have seen off a lesser booktuber. There's also Stephen E. Andrews, the Outlaw Bookseller, who has a vast encyclopedic knowledge of science fiction. Shawn and Stephen E. Andrews have our science fiction carved away as a kind of bailiwick, and they know it really well. And when it comes to fantasy, there's Philip Chase, who has a book, maybe more than one book, whose channel has also grown enormously in popularity, puts on a considered, polished visit with him. That's what you're getting, a very friendly, very knowledgeable guy who is getting ready to have you over for a visit. No off the cuff, no uncombed hair, no no unconsidered attitude, no, nothing like that. Instead, they're more formal, but not at all forbidding for that. So we could list those three for experts. And then I want to talk about, there's another aspect involved with BookTube. It connects more with the unofficial kind of approval that I'm talking about, rather than the metric approval of subscriber count or view number on videos or whatnot. In some way, there is a divide between those two things. And the last three channels that I want to mention are kind of the beating heart of BookTube. And in many cases, all across this list, the subscriber count doesn't always mirror the effect on the community. I think that's wonderful. I really do. I think we ought to pay more attention to that. I want to mention three channels who are kind of the heart of the community, at least the heart of my perception of the community, my watching of the community. The first is David Wiley, of course, who is known to everyone, liked by everyone. I don't think he even has 1,000 subscribers. He's a perfect example of what I'm talking about how the subscriber number is in part an illusion. It's a number, and people have to do it, so it's obviously not an illusion, but in a way it is. Because who doesn't watch and love David Wiley's channel? And yet, the metric side of YouTube doesn't know that he exists. So I want to mention him. I want to mention Shawn the Book Maniac, of course. He would be another old guard. He and I have been at BookTube for about the same amount of time. And he is a wonderful presence when chatting about books. He takes his books very seriously, but also very personally. And that's the kind of reading that you get, which is wonderful because it means you're not being sold a bill of goods. If a book frustrates Shawn, he's going to be extremely open about that fact. And he's going to be open and detailed about why. So you will know exactly where you stand when it comes to that book. That the nakedness, the naked honesty of that response, that's rare. Even in this little area of YouTube, that is rare, mainly because the more you do something, the more callous you tend to get at it. Shawn's made a ton of videos. He's not a callous reader at all. His heart is on every page, waiting to see whether or not he will love the book or hate it. He also has an ongoing series of BookTube shorts where he talks with other BookTubers. And it's wonderful, and it also abides by one of the 3 rules of this weaponized tag, which is under no circumstances include Steve. He has talked to, I think at this point, literally everyone else who has ever had a BookTube channel. So it's kind of heartwarming in a way when a new batch of short videos comes up. Well, I know who's not going to be on there. His channel is wonderful. Whether you agree or disagree, I think he and I, if he came over here for wine and calzones, would disagree until the sun came up on books. But I wouldn't miss his reactions for all the mud in Egypt. And then I'll finish out this sort of heart of BookTube section and also this weaponized tag video for Thanksgiving with probably the nicest person on BookTube, and that is Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. and you can tell in a minute when you watch her videos, she is perfectly happy to laugh at the goofiness of the bookish life. but as she's reading her books, you are very much getting a warm and sympathetic but assessing view of things. And that extends very much all across social media and off social media. She's one of those people where you watch the channel and you know, all right, this is a genuinely nice person that I'm watching, apart from what she's saying. A genuinely nice person here. And that is wonderful. I think that would probably extend to everyone that I mentioned on this list. Maybe with the exception of David Murphy. Who'd want him as a house guest? I ask you. But those are sort of the list that just for now I could make 10 of these lists. Notice I didn't mention my sister from another mister, Sarah, the Bookish Knitter, and a bunch of other people that I haven't mentioned that I could. So I'm hoping that the BookTube Thanksgiving Tag will become an annual thing. I will certainly do it next year if I'm making BookTube videos, and I'd love to see the rest of you. Who are you thankful for on BookTube? It's a good time, right? It's been a rough year. It's a good time to sing each other's praises. This is old news to MJ because she has a regular feature on her channel. There's no greater champion anywhere on BookTube. Now that Ben Sanders is gone, there's no greater champion anywhere on BookTube of new and smaller BookTube channels. So she knows perfectly well what I'm talking about, the joy of taking a minute from the momentum of the day and what's on your mind to give thanks for other people. We're all out here making this content, not only for all of our wonderful commenters, but also for each other. So I'm giving a little thanks here. And that felt really good for a Thanksgiving Day. Don't know that I'll make any other videos today. It's Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is, I love, of course, any kind of opportunity to be grateful. We all have an enormous number of things to be grateful for. No matter how crappy your life is going right now, you have an enormous number of things to be grateful for. And I like reminders of that. You get enough instances of life knocking you around, you start every day that way, not just one day a year. I start every day that way. I love that, but Thanksgiving as a holiday is not really a holiday that I keep. I only keep two, and Thanksgiving isn't one of them. That's not the reason. Thanksgiving is not the reason that I don't know that I'll be making other videos today. I think it's that I'm crushed with deadlines, just comically, epically crushed with deadlines. But we shall see. If the inspiration strikes, then I will be back. But I definitely wanted to do this. I'll leave links to all these channels down below. If you don't subscribe to all of them, I think you really should, and might want to pay extra attention to the channels that don't have a lot of subscribers. You know, it would be a nice Thanksgiving gift to double a subscriber count for somebody, because in a way, it does matter. It can cheer you up. It horrifies me because it means my book mailing bill is going to be ever so much higher. There are already too many mouths to feed on this channel. but some people, especially people who are starting out, they might want an increase in subscribers. Feel free to go and subscribe. I guarantee you will not regret any of these people in your feed. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody, if I don't see you again today, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.